There are so many changes. Erections and wet dreams.
I guess the worst change or like worst problem that you face while you're going through puberty would be like wet dreams because they're uncomfortable and they're hard to like explain when it happens.
Michael?
I was going to ask you to say, how does it occur?
Okay. That what happens typically, and it's a very common thing that almost all males will experience, is that some night you will wake up and you will find a wet spot on the sheets and you will say, uh-oh, I think I wet my bed. And the real issue is it's not urine. That what happens as people go into puberty is that all during the night, every 90 minutes, males have erections. It's a natural kind of thing that happens to all males throughout their lives. Even babies have erections. When a male has an erection, extra blood fills spongy tissue inside his penis, causing it to become larger and stiffer. The new thing during puberty is that now, when you have an erection, even in your sleep, you can also have an ejaculation. That's when a small amount of whitish liquid comes out the tip of your penis. This liquid, called semen, is not urine. The semen which we're seeing through a microscope contains millions of these tiny cells called sperm, which are constantly being made in your testicles. Just 1 teaspoon of semen contains roughly 200 to 300 million sperm.
After an ejaculation, what is it like? What happens to, what do you feel like after an ejaculation?
The word is orgasm, and an orgasm is a special physical and emotional experience that accompanies an ejaculation. And it's a very special feeling that is different from most other experiences that males have had. And it feels good.
About what age do you think you start to have wet dreams?
The issue for wet dreams is pretty much the same as the issue for all of the pieces of puberty. For some boys, it may be as early as 10, and for some boys, they may not have wet dreams until they're 15, 16, 17 years old or later.
Are there some people who don't have wet dreams?
There are some people who will never have a wet dream, and that's perfectly normal and natural. Yes?
Can it happen when you're not sleeping, like when you're next to a girl?
Very often, erections happen spontaneously. Spontaneously means just kind of out of the blue. And an erection, as I indicated, happens while we sleep every 90 minutes. But it also might happen if we have thoughts. Then they might be sexy thoughts, or they might be thoughts that have nothing to do with sex at all. And in fact, it might be really embarrassing. I mean, you might be in front of a room reading a report in social studies, and all of a sudden you have an erection for no good reason. And for many of us, that's really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right? You've experienced that? The good news is it goes away eventually. And guys do a variety of kinds of things to kind of put our hands in our pockets, or we hold books in front of us so that we can get erections naturally during the course of the day.
When our penis gets hard, is it called a boner?
Boner is a word that is a slang word that some people have used. Hard-on is a slang word that some people have used. Erection is the word that most adults tend to use for that. And even though people use the word boner, it's important to be aware that it's not a bone. Okay, there's no bone in the penis. It's just a bunch of blood vessels that fill up in order to make the erection. Greg?
When I wake up, I usually have an erection in the morning. Well, some people do because I've heard it a lot. When you wake up and you try to hide it, so like when if your mom comes in to wake you up in the morning, you try to turn away so she doesn't see like what's happening.
Okay.
So it doesn't look, so you don't like act like it. And then when you get out of bed, it just goes back to normal.
And is that an experience that other people have had? Yeah, okay. That morning erections are a very normal thing for most males. And as I said, we get erections during the course of the night on a fairly regular basis, and very frequently just before we awaken, we have an erection. And precisely as you said, that after a period of time, the erection goes down. And I think you can be pretty well assured that your moms know that that's a normal thing that happens to you. And I can appreciate, and they will probably appreciate, that it's private and you don't want to kind of go parading around with your erection on.
Is a girl's, would a girl's wet dream be considered as a period?
No.
When they go through the period stage?
No, it's not. Period for girls is typically taken as the first sure sign that she's hit puberty.
The first sign? I guess girls go through lots of changes, more than getting their periods.
Hormones and girls.
We're going to talk a little bit too about all the different changes.
Girls go through lots of changes during puberty.
But first I want to ask you, how does it feel? What kind of feelings do you have when you start to go through puberty?
I don't know, you're just growing up.
You feel older?
Yeah. It's weird, like one year you're like, boys hate you, and the next year everybody wants to go out with you. It's different. It's
So
weird.
you notice a difference in the boys. What about girls? Do they feel that way about boys? One year, maybe they didn't like them so much, but this year it's a different story.
Like sometimes like they could like be better looking like the next year than they were the year before that.
Any other feelings about the changes that are happening to you?
Feel grown up.
You're growing up? Well, let's see. Some of you I see have started to develop in certain areas already. How do you feel about those kind of changes?
Embarrassed sometimes.
Embarrassing. I guess we're talking about breast growing.
It's funny though. Sometimes people play around with you like, oh God, look how cute they are. It's like, oh, like how do?
And it makes you self-conscious when people pay too much attention to your breasts.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think they do that?
Just to get on your nerves.
To get on your nerves? That's the only reason?
That's what's boys do. Like, the good just sitting there staring at
Boys
you.
especially.
Yeah, they like judge you. If like a girl's flat, they don't go out with them, but yeah.
Oh, so if you grow them early and you have breasts, that's a problem. And if you're flat, if you don't have any yet, that can be a problem too.
Like one day I went to school without a bra, and I noticed something was funny, and like I called my father, I go, come bring a bra for me, please.
For a girl, when puberty begins, the pituitary gland, up here in your head, sends a message down to your ovaries. The ovaries start making hormones, including estrogen. The hormones really start all the changes. Girls get rounder. No, not all over. Just a few places, like rounder hips and fuller breasts. You'll probably notice a new growth of hair under your arms and on your legs and around your genitals. You'll have a growth spurt, and your voice will start to sound a little deeper. But it doesn't crack. Your sweat and oil glands get more active. You'll sweat more than you did before, and you may get pimples. A few, a lot, or you may get none. Meanwhile, your genitals are developing. The genitals inside your body are protected by the pelvic bone. The genitals include the ovaries, here, and the uterus, here, also called the womb. If a woman becomes pregnant, the uterus expands to hold the baby. The vagina, located here, is a kind of small passageway, which ends here as an opening on the outside of the body. Usually you can't see the opening very easily. It's protected by folds of skin called labia. Above the opening to the vagina are a tiny opening here for urine and the clitoris here, which is very sensitive to touch. The whole outer area is called the vulva. The clitoris can help create the strong physical and emotional feeling called an orgasm.
Is masturbation okay?
Before I answer that, let me say that masturbation is when a boy or girl touches the private parts of his or her own body, including their genitals, for sexual feelings.
Now, some people don't believe that this is what people should do. Some people think that it's perfectly okay. It cannot harm a girl or a guy in any way at all physically. Puberty, big question in everybody's mind. And I'd
There
like to go
are a
through
lot of
thoughts and feelings
questions
are you starting
and
to
urges and changes.
talk about how people feel about.
I guess the biggest change is getting your period. Now I use pads. But tampons? Well, I haven't figured out how to use these yet.